from another OSPF router, then it stores that data in its link state database. And this content of this database will be utilized by the Dijkstra's algorithm, and that helps in the creation of the routing table. So this link state database plays a major role. But what is the difference between this database and the routing table? So first, the database contains all the raw informations which are sent by the neighboring OSPF routers, whereas the routing table contains the best path or the shortest path which is generated with the help of Dijkstra's algorithm. So that is the difference. And the OSPF version 3, which is described in the document RFC 5340, it can support IPv6 and IPv4 unicast addressing types. So this is the working of the OSPF v3 protocol. Now moving on to the comparison of the OSPF v3 and OSPF v2 version. So the first thing about the routing process. Actually, most of the functionalities are same in V2 and V3, but there are some differences. First, we look at the routing process. In version 3, the routing process need not be explicitly created. And if we enable the OSPF v3 on an interface, that will cause a routing process. And its associated configurations can also be created. And then coming to the interface, enabling each interface. In OSPF v3, every interface must be enabled using the commands which we have seen already in the interface configuration mode. And this is different from the version 2. Because in version 2, interfaces are indirectly enabled using the global configuration mode. And the next thing is the difference will be in the NBMA interface, which is non-broadcast multi-access interface. So when using this NBMA interface in OSPF v3, you should manually configure the device with a list of neighbors. And when you are listing the neighbors, the neighboring devices can be identified with the device ID. That will be utilized. And about configuration of address prefixes. In IPv6, you can configure many address prefixes on an interface. So this in OSPF v3, all the address prefixes on an interface are included by default. So you cannot select some address prefixes and you can't neglect the others. So either all the address prefixes on the interface are imported or no address prefixes are being imported. And then multiple instances of v3 can be run on a link, on a particular link. And finally, the OSPF automatically prefers a loopback interface over any other kind. That is, it chooses the highest IP address among all the loopback interfaces. What happens if no loopback is present? Then at that time, the highest IP address in the device is chosen. So you cannot tell the OSPF to use any particular interface. These are some common differences in OSPF v3 when compared to the v2 version. Next, moving on to the LSA types. LSA means the link state advertisements. So that is very much utilized for generating the routing table. That will be first stored in the database and then it is utilized by the Dijkstra's algorithm for creating the routing table. So it contains some various types. First, about the type 1, which is router LSA. It describes the link state and cost of the router's link to that particular area. And these LSAs are flooded within that particular area only. And this indicates if the router is an area border router or autonomous system boundary router, and if it is one end of a virtual link. So this helps to tell the type of the router. And this is also used to advertise the sub networks. Particularly in OSP of V3, these LSAs have no address information and our network protocol